What is going on, everybody out there in Badger Nation? This is a very special episode, as they all are, to be honest. This is a very special episode because if you've been listening to the show for a while, we have only had about 5 guests on our show, 90 episodes deep. This is episode 91. So 91 episodes deep. We've only had about 5 guests. My guest today, I'm very excited about, John Tilley from ZonGuru. John, how are you doing today?
What's up, man? I didn't know that, so I feel pretty privileged right now. The pressure's on. I've got to deliver.
This is a big deal, right? I'm happy to deliver this pressure as we're starting in the intro. So here we go. John and I, this is actually pretty wild. You know, I think all of us generally miss traveling around, going to conferences, meeting new people. We met at a virtual conference for a professional group that we're both involved with. And I saw your name in the list of attendees. I was like, oh, wow, ZonGuru. They're an Amazon tool. We're an Amazon tool. Let's get to know each other. And since then, I've discovered that we've got quite a few things in common. One, if you're watching this on YouTube, we both have guitars to our left. 2, we got our hats made. He's got the beautiful ZonGuru logo on his hat. And my hat, my Ad Badger hat, we got made at the same place. We have the same podcast microphone. We have the same beauty light making us look nice. And we are both CEOs of Amazon tools. How does all this make you feel, John? Should we get to know each other a little bit better?
Dude, it just sounds like a bromance happening right now. Yeah.
Yes.
One difference is that I had to dust that guitar off and pull it out. I'm sure you play yours a lot more than mine, but hey, whatever. I saw yours there and I thought I had to throw mine in.
Yes, it's great. So I've had such a great time getting to know John. He's got a wealth of information that I know will be complementary to the PPC Den podcasts that we've been doing. You know, my specialty has been in the world of that campaign manager tab inside Amazon. That's where I spend 99% of my time. So to bring in an Amazon SEO expert to come in, talk to us, to complement all of the good PPC work that we're doing here, I couldn't be more excited. So John, I'd love for you too, just to introduce people. So, instead of saving the introduction at the end, tell us a little bit more about your background and a little intro to ZonGuru too.
Yeah, thanks, man. So ZonGuru is a all-in-one software tool set for private label Amazon sellers. So we specifically cater for those sellers who are creating brands and selling them on Amazon. We hope to help you through data visualization and automation at the various stages of your business journey. So if you're in the kind of product research phase, we have specific tools that will help you, find ideas and validate whether they're worth selling on Amazon. And then if you're moving into that kind of launch and listing phase, to your point of that SEO kind of keyword research and listing optimization, we have a very strong tool set in that area. And then it goes all the way through to, business management, customer connection, kind of the gamut over there. And one place that we don't really play is in the paid search area, but we definitely focus on the keyword side, which I think is an interesting kind of mutual, connection there. So that's ZonGuru. We've been around since 2015. Late 2015 is when we launched the software out here in Los Angeles, where I'm based. And I was a kind of an ad exec in the strategy side. Had a great career in advertising for many years, which I loved. And still love that space. So I'm very kind of familiar with paid media and strategies and that whole kind of side of it, even outside of Amazon. But yeah, I always wanted to make the jump and made the jump, started my own Amazon business, which is still running today and did well for me, over the years. And that gave me the opportunity to jump. And then we started ZonGuru, myself and business partner Adam Hudson, who heads up an education business called Reliable Education. So that was ultimately how we kind of came into the service side of Amazon. Was, how could we, one, help to create the right kind of education platform for people who are creating proper businesses on Amazon. And I think that's an important differentiator. And then how could we support them? So that was our kind of entry to market. And we've grown obviously beyond just that education platform and helping those customers. But yeah, we're a global team, which is fascinating and interesting to work on as a SaaS owner. And we have global customers, and we service Amazon.com, Europe and Australia at the moment, and a little bit of India as well. So those are our markets, and yeah, we're just jamming, man. Our goal is to obviously help sellers as much as possible because we're passionate about that space, and I think it's an amazing opportunity for all of us to scale, wealth through creating brands on Amazon and beyond.
I love it. So that is awesome to hear. I super recommend all of your content. So with all that said, you were mentioning an SEO case study that you guys are working on. And I thought that the learnings that our audience could glean from that, I think are really fantastic. So I want to jump into that, sort of the nuts and bolts of that. So I want to cover some topics about, what are the nuts and bolts of Amazon SEO? Like really, how does it generally work? And then what I think is really interesting too is, imagine if you were to approach an under-optimized page, a product page. An under-optimized page, how would we attack that? How would we think about it? I'd love to hear your thought process and some of your systems around approaching a page that is under-optimized. And with that, let's jump in. In a nutshell, how does Amazon SEO work? So if someone's launched their product, they're selling, they're gaining some traction, they're out and about, they've launched their PPC campaigns, and now they're thinking what should I be doing for my Amazon SEO? What are the ranking factors here?
The A10 algorithm is ultimately Amazon's algorithm with how they would rank you for your categories within Amazon. But that at the end of the day is not as important as understanding how you would rank for keywords, because that's ultimately how people are going to find you, right? It's when they type in a keyword, do you appear for that? And that's based on your kind of own listing and keyword optimization, and then obviously other factors around what kind of juice they want to give you and where they want to rank you and create visibility for you for those various keywords. And simplistically, I think Amazon wants to make money off of you, right? So if they can identify you as someone who's going to make them money, they're going to give you better ranking and better visibility, not only through organic, but also some of their remarketing tactics and everything else that they do on their end. The kind of reverse engineering that we have to do as sellers is understanding how to approach your category or your niche, and ensure that you can kind of raise your hand to the A10 algorithm and say, hey, I'm here and I'm actually doing pretty well, so give me some more traffic and rank me in a better way. And the good and bad side of Amazon right now is it's a much more sophisticated, complicated, competitive marketplace. And you not only have individual sellers, third-party sellers who make up a big part of Amazon, but you have big brands coming in. They have a lot of PPC budget. You kind of see this stuff happening, all day in Amazon. And so we have to be, as individual sellers, we kind of have to be a little smarter about how we approach our launch tactics to organically rank and the ongoing optimization of our listings. And the factors, to kind of get back to your point, I think the factors that are important is what are the actual keywords that I'm targeting and optimizing for. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the highest volume, highest volume keywords. You're looking for some of those longer tail, more descriptive keywords that are less competitive. So what are the keywords that I put in my listing, where they are placed in my listing? Are they exact or phrase matched? These are important factors. And then obviously your conversion rate, which is obviously based on your listing copy, how that's written, your images, your benefit overlays, whether you're brand registered or not, your review rate, how many reviews you're getting. These are all factored, your overall account performance metrics, how often you stay in stock, are you running out of stock? These are all things over time that are important factors for Amazon. And so, I think that the key point on a lot of those in terms of your performance ranking is over time, what happens to a lot of brands, and we see this often, is you have a great start and you're like, I'm making a lot of sales and this is amazing, but you get a few things wrong in your mismanagement of your accounts, because either you take your foot off the gas, or your attention somewhere else, or you just, you're not as attuned to what you should be looking out for. And you get a few things wrong, and then all of a sudden the Amazon's algorithm is like, yeah, you've lost a little bit of favor with us, and you lose it over time, and incrementally you'll see a reduction in your sales, and you drop down to 4.1 stars on ratings, or whatever those metrics are. Your conversion rate drops, and you kind of fall out of favor, and they favor someone else. So there's an aspect of SEO and optimization, which is a constant check and improvement, and making sure that you're doing the right things. And then there's a whole business management side of it around reviews and inventory and all those kind of things that you need to watch to make sure that you've completely optimized for Amazon. But those are the major factors here.
So it almost seems like there's one umbrella, or almost like two main areas, and they both apply to like brand strength. Like what does Amazon think of you? I imagine that it has something to do with like, do you get lots of refunds? Are you getting good reviews or bad reviews? How do you convert for a same keyword, you versus a competitor? The competitors are in a similar bucket. Like all these types of factors are going to contribute to, are you building a really great, strong, trustworthy brand? So like those factors. And then the other factor is the actual technical optimization of like what keywords you're picking and where are you putting those. Does that sound, pretty like a good way to think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, going into this kind of case study that we were busy with, and just a reflection on what we're seeing. I always put so much importance on the brand and the product and how it connects with your customers, and that whole aspect of it, which is absolutely critical and important. But I think nowadays, especially if you're truly kind of creating a private label brand, everyone's pretty clear that those are important factors, and you get it right. How does your box look, your brand, the quality of your images, your pictures, your visual aspect of it. So, how do you stand out in a way from your competitors? These are critical pieces. But the more I've gone through this case study now, the more I've realized that the data aspect of it and the optimization part of it is absolutely nuanced, and we'll get into the case study in a second, but we started with what I thought was a well-optimized listing, but as we unpacked it and went through it and changes we made, we actually, I realized, it's more that I realized that a lot of those things were approached in a way that it was like 80% there, not 100%. And when you move it to the 100% mark, it makes a massive difference on your actual business. So that data aspect of SEO optimization and PPC is a massive impact on your business for sure. And you can have an amazing product, but if you haven't optimized it in the right way, you're missing out on traffic and you're missing out on sales. And you can literally kill a product that might have done well if you just did it in the right way.
That's really interesting. So in a way, are you saying that almost like those brand strength factors of like returns, refunds, star rating, so on and so forth, those, I don't want to say are pass fail, like you either have a great brand or you don't, but maybe there's like three buckets, like three tiers of having that, almost in the sense of like the technical side of it can actually help in a bigger way than, like let's say your brand strength, all of those factors are like a 9 out of 10. And then your technical optimization is a 9 out of 10. There's like almost more of a benefit in dialing in your technical side, getting that really, really attuned. I guess what I'm trying to understand is, as an Amazon marketer, an Amazon seller, how should they be thinking about each of these like two engines that are going on? Like, where should we be spending most of our time thinking about and worrying about it?
Yeah, I mean, all are important, but I think you have to also think about what can I control, right? And the optimization of your listing is absolutely something you can control, right? And if you totally understand the right way of approaching it, you can maximize your ability to be seen and to be recognized by the potential traffic that's out there. So that's totally in your control. The other aspects, they're slightly softer, right? So it's like, reviews. Okay, great. I can have some strategies to help me get reviews and connect with my customers. But what is that review going to be, good or bad? That's not necessarily something I can control. I can put my best foot forward, but it's not completely in my control. My brand or my images, have I got it right where my customers recognize my differentiating factors, or that it's communicated through my visual and my copy? Yeah, that's not necessarily something that I'm always going to get 100% right. But the optimization, if you understand how to do it, you can nail it.
Right. It almost seems like those brand strength metrics are almost like table stakes. Like, you need a great product that people love. Boom. End of story. And then let's get into the technical side of it. You mentioned that when you took this deep dive on doing SEO for a particular product, you approached it and it looked technically sound to you. I'm curious about that. So when you looked at it, I mean, we all see, what I consider like good listings, bad listings. Like bad listings, low star ratings, doesn't have a lot of the rich content that Amazon product detail pages can have. So you describe the state of like when you first approached this product.
Yeah. So to give you a little bit of backstory on this case study we're currently working on, so we haven't completed it yet because we're still going through the steps. It's relatively new, but the backstory here is our CTO and lead developer Stefan. He's got his own Amazon business, but I'm not a developer myself. But what I love about developers is their true understanding of data and how it works. And I just recognized with his business how well he's done with Amazon. And some of our other developers, because we have part of kind of our business is to incentivize our team members to have their own Amazon business. And one thing I find is developers do incredibly well with Amazon business because they have that creative aspect, but the data aspect. And I just noticed that his business was doing well, but also in our kind of metrics, we could see how he performed on his PPC campaigns versus, the general customer database that we have, and he's always in the top couple of percent, so he absolutely has that dialed in. And I was curious around like, okay, well, what, just in our conversations, like, what is he doing and why is he doing so well with it? And we talk a lot about launch tactics and going off of Amazon and doing Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff. And his kind of feedback on that was like, if you do PPC right and you do your optimization right, you should be able to absolutely launch and crush it on Amazon just with those two things. You don't have to go anywhere else. Right. So I was like, okay, well, let's kind of see that. Let's take and so I have a connections. You've got a great brand, a product on Amazon, and it's just not doing well. And part of that is maybe not getting it right over the launch process and not favoring well with the Amazon algorithm. And my hunch was that, well, it's kind of screwed the pooch, right? You got it wrong, and to get favor back with Amazon is not really achievable. Within Amazon, you have to get outside traffic and a whole bunch of stuff and maybe get there. And he said, no, he thinks he can do it just by re-looking at it. So we went through, and we're in the process of doing this case study where we've taken a listing which is effectively in the doldrums, is what I'm calling it, and how we manage to turn that around and going through his process. The caveat there is like, I saw it as a well optimized listing, but Stefan, who's much more data driven than me, picked out those nuances, and it's that difference between the 80% and the 100%, or the 90 and the 100%, that made a massive difference in the execution and the success of that product. Inside a tip here, we're still in the process of finishing up the case study, and it's just funny. People love this, but like the freaking Amazon, like, so we're going to film one of the kind of closing episodes today to kind of show the success. And last week the guy's whose account who it is got shut down. He got deactivated. For some random reason we're still trying to figure out. I think it might have to do with multiple accounts or something like that. But, so it's going to be part of the case study. But we're like, okay, we have to get these things reactivated and probably kind of get back all of the ranking that we that we just worked on. This is a typical Amazon story, but yeah, that's the technical side of it. So that's the background. So what we want to dive into, kind of the optimization process and how we approach it.
Yeah. So, when it was in the doldrums, I assume that you mean like underperforming sales. Was it also like actually organically ranking poorly too? So like for keywords that this product obviously should be ranking for, it was like nowhere to be found. So was it underperforming from a business sense of low revenue generation as well as a organic ranking SEO perspective too?
Yeah, but both. So in my view, when I'm looking at the listing, I was like, oh, well, they had the right kind of keywords there. They were in the listing in the right place. But the important link is, one, that architecture of how it was optimized wasn't correct, and we can unpack that a little bit. But the link between that and PPC wasn't done in the right way. And so the PPC wasn't kind of aligning with the SEO optimization, and therefore, creating that kind of like multiplying effect across both. So to unpack the listing aspect of it, we have a tool called Keywords on Fire, which is a keyword and a listing optimization tool. So it's a keyword generator. So what this tool does is it actually will reverse look up your top 25 competitors or any specific products that you want to include in the analysis. And by reverse lookup, what we mean is whatever keywords they rank for in the kind of ecosphere of Amazon, we can figure out what those keywords are and dedupe them and come up with a list and say, okay, great. Across the top 25 performing competitors, here's the list of the keywords they rank for. And then we dedupe that again with a keyword generation tool, which is actually based on actual searches that customers do on Amazon, which we get through APIs. And you guys are probably familiar with brand analytics and a bunch of stuff there that we can do it. And we dedupe that against that list. So we're getting the best of all the keywords that customers are searching on Amazon and this kind of reverse lookup. And what's interesting when you look at these, and then we add a bunch of relevancy views over that, because just having thousands of keywords is no point. So we want to come up with a really solid list of keywords where we're like, okay, this is relevant for your product, number one, and then we can determine based on the keywords which ones are more important than other ones. And a lot of the factors we look at is search volume, how many people are searching, but most importantly, what kind of cash is generated by those keywords. And then third importantly is how competitive are those keywords? Are those keywords that you're trying to particularly target, are they really competitive, and all the top competitors are only, or are there some keywords in there, maybe some of the longer tail, more descriptive ones that other competitors have missed, and there's an opportunity for us to own those. And so it's a balance of optimizing your listing based on where the main keywords you want to target, which is not necessarily the highest volume, but it's ones where you could potentially see opportunity around your competitors aren't optimized for. Because if you can convert on those, Amazon's going to say, hey, these guys are converting well on these keywords because they're less competitive, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's kind of the halo effect. You'll start to rank for some of those more competitive terms as well. So you've got to balance where you put them in your listing and what you target. So that in a nutshell is part of the analysis we do. And then when you optimize your listing, it's understanding that some of your main keywords that you're targeting, the further up in your listing it is in terms of your title, followed by your bullets, followed by your description, followed by your back-end keywords, how you put those into your listing. If you convert on those keywords, you get more juice if it's higher up in your listing. So that's kind of the framework of how you actually create your listing, if that makes sense.
So that's really good. I have some, to confirm my own understanding almost, I'm a huge fan of like visual metaphors. So it almost seemed like, if I have a product that's under optimized both in sales and SEO value, there's going to be a challenge of sort of scaling this mountain where I'm not going to be able to scale and go after the highest volume keyword right off the bat because of so many other reasons. I always use the term like inertia on Amazon. Like if you have good inertia, if you're moving naturally in a direction, Amazon generally will want to keep you moving in that direction. So if you have a way under optimized page, you haven't been doing well, PPC or organically, it's going to take more energy, like starting a lawnmower, to get it going in the right direction again, as opposed to if you're already just doing gangbusters to, you already have such a great velocity moving in the right direction. It's going to be easy for you to capitalize on that and go even faster. So when you're starting with an under optimized listing and you are viewing this, ranking for all the best terms to be the top of the mountain, it's almost like you need to gain some footholds in that mountain first. And I think the way that you were describing it is that going after less competitive, lower volume, and I mean, when we say lower volume, if you're really optimizing a listing, it probably means you're not even getting the low volume keywords. So more volume than you're currently getting, maybe not the most volume. So you're looking at those less competitive, potentially lower volume keywords, ranking for those, optimizing for those, using those as footholds, and then eventually working your way, scaling up this mountain. Because once you establish those less competitive footholds, that's going to start that inertia towards, hey, you're ranking for some things now. You're getting sales for some keywords. Now you can rank for even more keywords, and then even more, and so on and so forth. Would you say generally that's a good way to think about Amazon SEO? Like, you want to start with a place potentially where your top competitor forgot about, like they're not paying attention to this keyword, and then you use that as a foothold and work your way up?
Yes, I think that's the right approach. But the nuance on that is that you still want to make sure that your listing is optimized for those high volume keywords, right? So you've got to have them in your listing, but it's more of where they are on your listing. How do you phrase match for those? And importantly, when it's kind of going to the PPC thing, but being creative around maybe some of those keywords that you could go after where they are less competitive, and if you can at least showcase for those and test them out, you might find that you get a great conversion rate, and you know that that's a winner, and you can keep it in your main campaign, right? So it's kind of that balance between, at a simple view, it's like knowing all the keywords that are out there, making sure that I can absolutely have the potential to rank for all of those keywords, high volume, competitive, less competitive, but just like understanding what is the true kind of universe of keywords that I can get into my listing, and then understanding from there what are the ones that I want to prioritize, that I think I could get a foothold on, that is less competitive, and then using the position in your listing as one kind of thing, but then your PPC campaigns is another way of saying, hey, I'm deliberately going after some of these keywords because I think I can win on these because they're very, very relevant for my product and they're less competitive. So let's go after those. And to your point, at the end of the day, even those lower volume keywords, like that's $1 million business just in itself, if you can own them.
Right. So over the last few minutes, we've got a lot of ideas. I want to tie them all together. So we've got reverse ASIN lookup, like your competitors are ranking for these terms. They should be worth looking at. Then you've also got data from, keyword searches and brand analytics. We've done a 4-part series on the show about brand analytics, about where this data comes from. I imagine search volume traffic as well. That's source number 3. And then was there a 4th source of sort of keyword generation before all these keyword sources get tied together? Reverse ASIN, brand analytics, search volume.
I think there's dollars from keywords, which we
dollars from keywords.
It's not really available, but yeah, we figured that out. Yeah.
So we have all these factors. The keywords get ranked in some degree. The word competition has come up quite a bit. Could you talk to me a little bit more about what are the quantitative things and maybe qualitative things that actually separate a high competitive keyword to a low competition keyword?
Yeah.
What do we mean when we say competition on Amazon? Like competition on a keyword on Amazon?
So I think number one is looking at reviews. On average reviews for that keyword and page 1 listings, right? What's the average reviews? Do they have 100 or 200 or 5,000, right? Because obviously that's a good gauge of seasoned listings, and we know that more seasoned listings on Amazon are much more ingrained and it's very hard to kind of take on. So that's one, and then the second piece is pretty simple. It's well, there's a couple of things. One is listing score. So we have a way of factoring in across all of the main products that are ranking for that keyword, and we usually look at the top 25 or the page one, what is the average listing score? And we factor that listing score based on, are they optimized for the top keywords? Do they use all of their images? You know, have they got a good review average rating? A few other factors that you know, are they EBC? Are they brand enhanced brand content? These are all things that factor into the competitiveness of the subset of listings. So we have a score that you know, we rate that on. So those are all factor into competition. But the main one that I like to look at is per keyword. We have kind of a view on our tool that will show the top 25 competitors that were used in that analysis, and then exactly where they rank, position 1 to 250 for each of those keywords. And then we kind of color code that, like red, green, orange, or whatever. So you can very easily visually see, okay, all of these keywords, if I'm looking across the top 25 competitors, where do I see more green than red? And if it's more green, I'm like, okay, now let me look at the search volume. Wait, there's still some really good search volume there, but it's all green, so they obviously aren't really optimized for this. That's a keyword I can target. It's relevant for my listing, etc. So that's kind of one of the ways that we approach visually looking at competition and how to optimize for it.
So that's really cool. So discerning these keywords and deciphering amongst the data which ones to go after. So we've got it, and sort of ideally we find something that's low competition, high opportunity. And I'm sure like that varies. You're going to have medium competition, medium opportunity, high competition, high opportunity, all across the gamut. So once we have that keyword, where do we start inserting that into our actual product page? And again, you also mentioned some table stakes too, like good reviews, EBC, all of those things. Those sound like table stakes. Like you just have to have those dialed in. So then we're getting to like the technical side of it, which is like, where do we actually put this? You know, let's say we had, and you know, from that analysis, how many keywords do people generally walk away with? And then where do those keywords get placed into their system? Like where are they actually putting these things?
Yeah. So that keyword list, you know, honestly, it's 100 or under or a little bit over. You know, you're not looking at the thousands or even over the 200s, because you know there's a very specific relevant set that you want to go after. And in terms of where you place in your listing, how we do it anyway on our side is we use our tool, which is a listing optimizer tool. So once you've kind of found that subset of keywords, and you can obviously save them and split them out and be like, hey, here's my short tail, long tail, competitive, less competitive, however you want to save those. But you can then import them into the listing optimization tool, which will create you that subset of keywords. And then you can pull in your listing as well as I think it's your top 5 competitor listings. So you can kind of like stack them up next to each other, and we'll give like an optimization score on each of those listings. So you can be like, oh, well, competitor 3 is the most optimized for that subset of keywords you've got. They're the most optimized. So you can kind of like look into them, like, how are they doing that? Can I steal something from theirs? You know, so there's a way that you can kind of beg, borrow, and steal from other listings, or at least analyze that and develop it into your own. And the idea then is to create your listing where you increase your optimization score, which we factor based on which keywords you picked out, put into your listing, and are they exact or phrase matched, and where are they in the listing? Are they in their priority, title, bullets, description, backend? And then you can kind of start to try and get your optimization score as high as it can be, so that you know that you fully optimize, one, for your subset of keywords that you're targeting, but also in terms of where you've placed them in your listing. And you know, the big aha moment for me in that kind of case study that I was doing with Stefan, I think it's episode 2, but you know, we looked at the listing and he said, okay, like, here's the optimization score based on this listing. And I think it was like, you know, I think it had a score of like 5,000 out of like a possible 9,000 score. Mm-hmm. And we kind of give you this metric, which is like, you are in the top percentile of the main competitors on page 1 for this listing. So we'll say you're in the top 15%, whatever, something like that, right? And then just through his good understanding of exact and phrase matched, and looking at the keywords and kind of moving things around in the title, instead of us because this is a little bit more in depth, but when you look at the keywords, we will tell you whether they are exact or phrase matched in your title bullets or things. So we kind of put a number in against it. So you can see each keyword and be like, oh, these are in your title. It has a T next to it. So these match phrase and exact in your title, right? And I think at the time it was like we had like maybe 10 or 11 exact or phrase matches that matched in the title. And after manipulating the listing, the title a bit, we then matched for 50. So, and you don't have more and actually we use less characters in the title. So understanding how to creatively come up with your title so that it has its best opportunity to exact and phrase match for the keywords that you want to target is really critical, because that's where you're going to get the most benefit from conversion. So that was a big moment for me where I was like, oh, it's not just about like, great, we have these keywords, let's come up with a title and make it descriptive and everything. It's like, how can I make sure that these exact and phrase match against the most keywords that I want to target, which is critical.
Okay, yeah, you kind of answered my next question in that explanation, because I was going to ask, so many people hear that, they get a list of keywords, good keywords that have been sort of filtered for opportunity, all those good things. Then the question becomes like the listing score. It's almost like I don't do much Amazon SEO, but with Google SEO, you punch in one URL and you say, how am I optimized for this one keyword? But on Amazon, we need to flip that idea and sort of say, you have only so many characters in your title, descriptions, so on and so forth. You need to think about your optimization score, like how you're being optimized for each one of your target terms. So you're going to score, the most SEO value if you put it at the beginning of your title. Can you talk more about sort of the prioritization of sort of where those things go and sort of how someone improves their SEO for this, like a swath? Because you mentioned like 100 keywords. 100 keywords. You'll have your most important spots, and then like the bottom 50 will just generally be somewhere. Talk to me about where those keywords end up going. Like obviously the beginning of the title and the rest of the title, that's a big one. Bullet points, so on and so forth. I just want to be sure I hit that point, because I think that's a really interesting one. Like how do you optimize a listing for dozens, potentially, keywords?
Yeah, so I think, the theory to understand there is when someone converts and buys your product, depending on what keyword they typed into Amazon to find your product and whether they clicked on a paid ad or organically, the theory is if that keyword appears high up in your listing, in your title, as an exact, followed by a phrase, followed by a broad, if it converts and it's in your title, you're going to get more algorithmic juice because it was in your title versus your description and bullets. That's the theory that we follow, right?
Right. Amazon doesn't explicitly tell us these things.
Right, exactly. But that's what we kind of understand. So if you take that thinking, the more your title has the targeted keywords that you're going after, and the more of them that you can exact or phrase match for, the more chance you have of getting more juice for your algorithm when people convert on those keywords. So that's not to say you should keyword stuff your title. By no means do that. And actually in our exercise, we didn't. We kind of were very specific about it. And the rest of your listing shouldn't be either. But I think if you're going for that 100 or 200, you can write your listing in the right way. You can repeat keywords if you need to. You don't have to. But that's obviously more for flow of how it reads. And then do your bullets and then your description, and then anything that you have left over that you want to optimize for that you haven't got in there, put them into your backend keywords. That's also a note there, is that our listing optimization score, we have a way of putting in the backend keywords of any competitor, which you don't get to see. So at least here you get to see them. You can see what people put in their backend keywords. It's pretty interesting to see those guys who put brand keywords or Spanish or whatever else they put in there, So that's how we look at it. Then when you do your PPC campaigns, understanding, okay, these are the keywords I'm targeting, and if I'm converting well for that keyword and it's higher up in my listing, there's a great alignment, right? Because now I'm like, getting in front of customers through my paid ads for keywords that I'm targeting I'm getting the click, I'm getting the conversion, and when that conversion happens, that keyword is higher up in my listing, so I'm getting the maximum juice for that, and that's how you're going to start to kind of rank for your targeted keywords.
So in this example that you mentioned about the underperforming listing, you went in there and basically, like you mentioned that the title actually shrank in character count. So what were they doing? Like, what are some common mistakes that people are making? Like, what got them underperforming in the first place so that people could avoid doing those things at all?
I think on this specific listing, it was kind of following this idea of including, let's just say it's yoga mats, right? So yoga mats, and then it's like for yoga, for men, for child, for women, for, like kind of like trying to get everything from every single, aspect into there. And I think that was a common mistake. I think keeping your title, relatively short, that kind of shows you as a professional business, but also is strategically done so that you exact match phrase match for the majority of the keywords you're targeting, is kind of a subtle exercise that you can do. And it was amazing to me to see, by shortening it, but by putting the keywords in the right way, we still phrase match for so many more. So I think that's one of the common mistakes, is overstuffing the title. And then with this specifically, I think it's one, not exact or phrase matching for the right keywords. So understanding which ones are the ones that you want to target, and where they go in your listing. And then the biggest driving factor on that was, once you kind of figured out strategically what keywords you want to go after and where you're placing your listing, is matching that up with your PPC campaigns and driving it from that way.
Mm-hmm. And tell me how that happen. Tell me that process happens. So once they've done all of these things, how do you like to start with all of these SEO factors and then transition over to the PPC side of it too?
Yeah, I think the first thing is once we had done the listing optimization, the score jumped into the top 3% of comparative listings, right? So, and I think it went from, like, I don't know if it was like $8 million in potential kind of revenue from all of the keywords, that's just kind of how we rate it, to like 12 or 13 or 14 million. So what that basically means is the universe of keywords that we could collect from was much bigger, right? So I think that was a number one, like, hey, we have the potential to get at all of these keywords. And then the second step is just starting with a manual campaign, bringing in the right targeted keywords. So I think one of the interesting things about using this keyword tool is uncovering potential opportunities that other competitors haven't uncovered, and converting for those, right? And so you have that intelligence, business intelligence or data intelligence from what you've collected, to say, hey, let's create a manual campaign around these and see if there's actually some volume and ways of converting on those. So that was our process, is instead of necessarily doing the automatic campaign, we just focus straight on that manual campaign, put those in. And then the other success factor, which is outside of just the data that we pulled in, is the PPC management on a weekly basis, and going in there and understanding how to optimize your keyword list to say, okay, these ones are getting the clicks but not the conversions, cut them. These ones are converting, let's put some more behind them. Let's kind of manage the bids. And for me, the learning was to do that consistently over time. And that's one of the biggest things that I think, outside of your listing optimization and making sure that it's kind of like your house is in order, right? You've got your house in order, now we can have the party, but making sure that you consistently approach getting those customers to get to your listing, and optimizing twice a week or however many times to make sure that you're targeting the right keywords. And that's a big mistake that sellers don't make, is they don't really understand how to consistently over time effectively optimize their PPC campaigns to match their listing.
And speaking of like the workflow over time, I think my last question here is really just if they've done that work at one point. So whether they started it the right way or they didn't start the right way and they went in and improved it, what kind of consistent technical SEO work like that takes place, and how often? So like we talk about like PPC cadences, like changing X every so often, doing Y every so often. What does it look like from like a workflow aspect for the SEO side, the keyword-based SEO side?
Yeah, I think they go hand in hand with well, I would with PPC in the sense that you've optimized your listing, right, and you've kind of put in all your potential keywords that you could rank for, and then it's a matter of managing and getting insights from your search term reports and your PPC, right, or your automatic campaigns or whatever it is, and saying, wow, these are keywords that we're converting for that actually I don't have in my listing. And then it's just a matter of adding those in addition to what you have over time, or reprioritizing some of the keywords that you have in your listing that you like, actually, these ones are getting a higher conversion rate. So let me move them up in my listing when they were down. And, that's something that you can do, at maximum, I would say once a week, once every 2 weeks, collect a bunch of those and then add them. I wouldn't do that daily or anything
Right.
like that, Yeah.
And if you had this is my last question. If you had one wish list for an additional data point from Amazon, what would that additional data point be? I think mine would be conversion rates per keyword, like inside your account. So like I know with brand analytics, you could see some conversion rates, but I think it'd be awesome to see like conversion rates for every single keyword organically. I think that'd be really fascinating, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it's funny, I was laughing because you stole kind of what I would have said, which is it's actually even just conversion rate by ASIN, right? Like
Yeah.
if I can even, right now I think it's even difficult to get at that, which is, for each of my product ASINs or variations, or what is my conversion rates, even if I could understand that, I could truly, by ASIN, not only for my products, but for my competitors. Because if I could understand how I convert versus my competition, that immediately gives me a sense of if I'm doing better or not, So I think conversion rate is something that would be amazing. That would be a great data point, and maybe some more like, this is more of a function, but I think geo-targeting location,
Right.
would be awesome. So we can go after the right customers.
Yeah. John, I learned so much conceptually about SEO. I'm actually like super stoked. I want to like go do SEO right now. Because we talked about, I think Amazon SEO sometimes gets talked about in such a theoretical way. You see all these like crazy headlines sometimes. But I think what we've broken down is like an actual process to follow. And I think those are my favorite kinds of digital marketing conversations to have, of like, this is how it's actually done. Like, we're going to do reverse ASIN lookups. We want to find out what our competition's ranking for. We want to look at those products and see how those products ranking for those keywords are optimized. We want to find the lower optimized keyword opportunity. Once we have that discernment on those keywords with search volume, then we can actually create an attack plan to go and attack these keywords. We'll prioritize these keywords. We'll put the most important ones in the beginning of our listings, the less important ones further down. We'll use our PPC as a feedback loop there. Like, that is something that's like a really nice chunk of gold right there. That's really cool to hear. I'm super happy that we had this conversation. You've got a lot of stuff going on. Where can people, because this whole episode was sort of based off a case study that you were mentioning to me that you were doing. And I was like, I want that on my show. Let's talk about that. That is going to be high value. So where can people like go and get more info on ZonGuru?
Yeah, thanks. It's been a good conversation to have, and that PPC case study is not out yet. So, as soon as it is, you can check it out. But I would go to zonguru.com and check out our blog. We try and focus our blog content around specific pain points that we're kind of unpacking and solving for Amazon sellers. There's one recently around, we call a halo effect, which really does do a kind of a deep dive on how to create your listing optimization, so they can check that out. But I would do that. I'll give you a link as well. I think there's one where you can really dive in and kind of get our SOP on how to optimize a listing. so we can kind of send you that. And yeah, just go on, check us out, and if you have questions, hit our support up, because they're all there to help. And then finally, some of our social channels are great. I think our Instagram channel is particularly interesting because it's just really a feed of good product ideas and differentiation. So if you're kind of in that space of wanting to understand how to differentiate your product, and get some inspiration there, that's a one to check out for sure.
Lots of good stuff. John, I hope we continue the bromance that we've been having. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And everyone else, I'll see you next time here on the Badger Den. Have a good one.
Thanks, man.